Good morning, teacher. Today I'm going to talk about two interesting topics. The first topic is about some pros and cons of the renewable types of energy. The first energy that I will mention will be wind energy. This energy emerges and is obtained through the wind. The first advantage of wind energy is that it's renewable and does not run out since it comes from a natural source such as wind. I want to emphasize that the wind energy is completely safe. There can be no accident with this type of energy as with nuclear energy or another type of energy. In addition, it does not generate toxic waste. On the other hand, one of its disadvantages is that it depends on the weather. There are usually no supply problems, but depending on the wind, it may be less slower or go in a direction that it's not interesting. It's important to note that it generates noise and visual pollution. Noise causes an inconvenience for the society and also has an aesthetic disturbance. Also, wind energy is very important in the world. By 2030, this renewable production technique will have covered between 25 and 30% of world consumption. Another renewable energy is solar energy. This is obtained from the use of electromagnetic radiation from the sun. An advantage is that it's operating in silence. Therefore, solar panels have a useful life of more than 20 years. Some even reach their 40s, but from the second decade on, their efficiency will decline. And don't forget that it allows you to have live electricity wherever you live. You will not depend on any electrical network. Um, a disadvantage is that the cost of its installation is expensive. It requires a large initial investment, but this will have ended up being amortized. Also, to collect a large scale and not with domestic objects, large areas are required with the economic efforts that this implies causing this disadvantage. And also solar energy is one that takes advantage of the radiation of the particles of sunlight to produce energy. By 2030, the world will have to come from wind and solar power, and by 2040, wind and solar power are expected to account for 50% of the world generating capacity. From now on, the society will have been using renewable energy very commonly, much more than already use it. Changing the subject, now I will talk a little about animal and human migration. On the part of animals, the species that are considered migratory can make these trips in a cyclical way. Reproduction or simply for survival are reasons why animals migrate. Many living beings are forced to change their habitat to mate or to look for food that will allow them to survive. I'm really surprised to hear that because there are many animals that migrate to different and new places. They could also have a sunrise through the humans and who arrive at the places where they are and where animals could end up being hunted and sold by humans. About the migration of humans, many of them do it to seek uh, a better future for themselves and some for their entire family. An example that I could mention is my grandfather. He and my grandmother were from a small town until they immigrate and they come to the capital. And this is where they began to build their future for themselves and their children. For my grandfather, um, having raised their children must have been very hard, since in those days nothing was easy, but they success and years passed and they ended up having many things, including their own houses and educating their children, which for my grandparents was the most important thing. Um, in concluding, I hope that many people have the same spirit of being better, so that they have a better life in the future. And thank you so much.